We stand in solidarity with Black content creators, business owners, communities, and viewers.
Tamer Cardcast believes in inclusion of Tamers of all skin colors. No Tamer should ever be left behind or left unheard in this world we live in.
In accordance with our beliefs, we'll be posting Black content creators in our video's description to promote their work.
Use your privilege to stand with Black Tamers during these times. Be the solution. Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Tamer Cardcast. I'm Zach.
I'm Marina.
And today we're going to finish our set breakdown for BT01 New Evolution. We're going to go through the rares, uncommons, commons, and share kind of our thoughts. And then in recognition of your guys' desires, we're going to break down our thoughts on what's going to be coming in set 2, going through all the things that have been revealed and speculate a little bit. So starting with the rares. First off, there's the babies in each color. Yokomon in red, Upamon in blue, Cupimon in yellow, and Tanamon in green. All 4 of these babies are pretty damn relevant to the colors they play. I'll let Marina go with hers first for Cupimon.
So, Cupimon's actually a bit different than the others because the skill usually only goes off once at the beginning of the game, I feel like. But I don't think that makes it useless by any means because early game is when that draw really does matter. But unless you're playing a heavy heal deck, which most yellows are, it's going to become difficult to be able to actually continually get that draw.
Yeah, for reference, Cupimon's effect is on attack in the evolution source. If you have 5 or more security, you draw 1, which is pretty difficult to activate outside of like your first attack or 2 in the game, unless for some reason your opponent is just letting you windmill slam heals without punishing you. Starting with red, Yokomon gives a Digimon plus 2,000 DP when it is attacking a Digimon. In red, a lot of decks right now are just attacking security. So Yokomon's okay, but it does not proc if you are not initially attacking a Digimon. So in a lot of ways, Yokomon doesn't really come into play. You see some people still playing Koromon because Baby Demon kind of has that same problem. In blue, you have Upamon, which whenever you attack with a Digimon with it in its evolution source, if your opponent has a Digimon with no evolution sources, you draw a card, which is inherently powerful against decks like Yellow. You rack up a bunch of card draw, but it can also have issues when your opponent knows to play around it. You really don't get much benefit out of it. And then for green, Tanamon. Tanamon gives you plus 1,000 DP if a Digimon has Digivolved this turn in your active area. So that can help in green. It can help you kill some of your opponent's Digimon. I know playing against yellow, I fuck up some big boys sometimes with the power gains.
I definitely think Tanamon has a really strong place, not only because it's one of the only babies in green, obviously, but I do believe that bonus is inherently powerful because you're also evolving so much in green.
Yeah, it doesn't really stack with each evolution, but green just needs that little bit of oomph to outpower your opponent's Digimon and clear their board, and normally Tanamon is the method by which that happens, unless you're playing Fremon and you have an opponent that's playing a lot of cards on board, then Fremon can kind of edge out Tanamon in certain situations, but it's kind of up in the air. When it comes to babies, the blue and the yellow one are really uncontested for their spots in their lists, whereas Yokomon and Tanamon are kind of build reliant. And you'll see that when we talk about the uncommon babies. Moving on from there, there's the trio of on-place rookies, Agumon, Gabumon, and Patamon. Agumon and Patamon sharing a similar ability. On place, Agumon is top 5, Patamon is top 4. Reveal those cards and add a Tamer to your hand. In red, I use Agumon a lot, but then in Marina's case,
in yellow, I do like to actually use Patamon because he is such a low-cost body to get on board, and there is a value attached to it because you can pull the Tamer. And pulling the Tamer, depending on what you run in it, for me, I run level 4 TK, and because of that, when you play that, it enables you to not be damage denied, or not damage denied, but rather memory denied where you would get stuck with one memory left over if your opponent's trying to deny you.
Yeah, whereas Agumon is kind of trying to allow you to play that same strategy of unbricking yourself so that your opponent can't memory deny you, but Agumon is normally additional like copies of Taichi where you do not want to play them in your actual list because 2 to 4 Taichis, if you draw them during the game, are almost completely worthless. Taichi's effect is so situational already, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But you only really want 1, so you maybe play 2 to 3 Taichis in your deck, and then a couple Agumons to help you filter and find them as needed. And then along with those 2, Gabumon, which I think is the most powerful of the 3. Just on place, draw a card. You know, all 3 of these cost the same 3 cost. So Gabumon has a lot of flexibility, and blue is a deck that loves to just throw down its rookies. It really helps enable the aggro without punishing you for not being able to digivolve it onto a baby. So it's really just a great consistency piece. And then from there, we're going to kind of touch on each different color. So I'm going to start with Tyrannomon, which is the weirdest rare in my opinion. He's just a jammer. He is exactly the same as every other jammer. Every other jammer is common. And he just happens to be rare for red. I guess that just means that they don't like jammer being in red.
I think it also ties in that they probably had to fill the slot.
Yeah, I could see them maybe getting a little more creative here, but he could have just been a slot filler. I mean,
I think jammers could have a place, but as of right now, I don't think you sit on them long enough to actually make a strong difference during games.
Yeah, a 4K power is just super like vulnerable. Your opponent just cracking back on them and killing them with no cost to themselves.
The removal is extremely easy too.
Yeah, 4K is nothing. They get hit by most of yellow's effects. It even gets hit by Mega Destroyer, the red option card from the trial deck.
Doesn't it also get hit by the blue option card, I believe? Or do they have to be 4K or less?
I'm not sure which card that is you mean. I'll have to look into that. But yeah, so the Jammer line, which is kind of like encapsulated by Tyrannomon here, is pretty underpowered. Some people like them just because they don't like the feel bad of attacking the security and losing all of their Digimon progress. But really when you're attacking into security with a champion, you're playing that risk already. So I don't think jammers have much of a place in the meta right now. Obviously that could change in the future, but Tyrannomon is just a weird rare taking up a slot where maybe something better could have been placed.
I mean, I think it could have relevance in regards to if they gave jammer to higher units, but then the issue with that would be the balancing act of that.
Yeah, because things already being inherently big means that jammer is almost irrelevant, and then it's also like, well, maybe if I run into my opponent's Mega, now I have this big Digimon that doesn't die to that, and doesn't really die to my opponent's stuff that they play either, unless they really Digivolve their next turn. So you could let Jammer go out of control, or you could leave it on these 4K bodies and it do nothing. Moving from there, Skull Greymon, my favorite rare in red. On place, destroy an opponent's blocker. Cost 7, Digivolve 3. You're not really going to look into Digivolve him. Right now he's a 2 to 3 of in a lot of decks I see. He kind of mimics what yellow's playstyle really is sometimes, but he is conditional. Obviously your opponent doesn't always have a blocker. Sometimes they digivolve past their blocker because they want to keep up their offense. So he's a little bit iffy, but I feel like a lot of the ultimates in red are kind of situational.
I agree with that. I think Skull Greymon definitely has a place in the matchup against yellow just because there's so many 7-cost yellows that you run. You run Mistymon, you run Holy Angemon, and I think those are enough to say that that makes him worth running because of the fact that you can easily go ahead and play those and give your opponent 7 if you're not exactly watching what you're doing, which then enables you to put down Skull Greymon and destroy a blocker, and depending on what other cards you have down, if you're rushing with red, it could really give you the advantage.
Yeah, and it also really enables you to play that kind of yellow strategy where you slap down a big ultimate that swings the tempo in your favor, and then kind of sets you up to play a Mega the next turn. Way more successful with like Seraphimon and Holy Angemon because those those cards are crazy. But Skull Greymon is kind of Red's version of that, and I think Red could use that strategy in the future. Moving on to blue, Cerberumon. Everyone's like budget Veedramon. I do not like paying for my restands, as weird as that might sound. Because Cerberumon is twice per turn, you can discard 3 cards to restand, but that's on declaration of attack, so you do not get to see what your security check is first.
I definitely think having it be 2 per turn is important. Of course, he does not in any way replace Veedramon, because Veedramon is such a high value card.
Yeah.
But because blue is actually such an expensive deck to build, I do believe Cerberumon has a place in a lot of builds.
Yeah, he's definitely a budget option. It's kind of the best thing you can do if you do not have your hands on some of the ultimates that are more expensive in blue, like Zudomon, if you just can't get your hands on them, or the promo Garurumon, which kind of does similar restanding stuff, but better in my opinion. You just need a Garurumon in source. But Cerberumon costing 3 cards to discard and needing to be activated on the attack means that it's a very risky proposal unless you're killing your opponent's Digimon. Which then, you know, blue draws so many cards that maybe that could be worth it. But I'm always a little iffy on Cerberumon. But definitely a great option for your budget lists. Next, Ikakumon. Probably the least played rare in blue. His effect is in source. Your Digimon cannot be blocked by an opponent's Digimon without evolution sources.
See, one thing I don't understand is, of course, I don't play blue, so I won't be able to give maybe a proper opinion on this, but that is a very strong source effect, and I believe one of the things blue lacks in is being able to push that extra aggression. So I believe being able to not block something without evolution sources attached to that Digimon is super important.
So I think it just comes from the fact that blue's current builds don't rely on ultimates that are particularly aggressive unless you're using promo Garurumon, which then restands if you have Garurumon in source, and then also can give your Mega +1 security attack if you have 8 cards in hand. So just the presence of Garurumon in blue decks alone as like the main ultimate that you want to digivolve into, since Zudomon has an on-place effect, means that Ikakumon barely really sees play, because in blue, the ultimate is not the level that you're pushing for aggression unless it's promo Garurumon. And then also, Ikakumon's play is maybe not easily, excuse me, but can be played around. It just means that you have to, if you're playing down a rookie or something like that, you have to be careful with what your opponent's doing. Normally, digivolving from champion to ultimate, or from rookie all the way to ultimate in 1 turn is costly enough that your opponent could kind of test the waters before just opening the floodgates to Ikakumon killing you. And definitely in a best of 3, Ikakumon is way more easily telegraphed.
I agree with that.
Alright, moving on to yellow. Labramon, a very situational but could be powerful. I'll let Marina explain this one.
So, my philosophy behind yellow is you already have a lot of high value cards that allow you to do DP reduction and things of that sort. So, I believe Labramon is more of a passive bonus, because you're going to be deducting DP constantly throughout the matches. So it just enables you to get that draw. And it also pairs with other effects, such as the trial deck Tokamon. So I do believe that is extremely important in its own niche.
For reference, Labramon's effect is in source if an opponent's Digimon is destroyed because its DP becomes 0. Basically, that means it has to be killed by the subtraction effects. You draw 1 card. And that's only during your turn. It doesn't work with like 7 Heavens from security or things like that. And then...
So there's also Mistymon. And Mistymon is another high value card in yellow. It is essentially a field wipe, and on place... -3k DP from 2 opponent Digimon. So in any case, such as blue, where if someone's placing down a lot of rookies, it enables you to board wipe that rather quickly so you do not take massive damage to your security.
Also, something that we don't really get to test much, but definitely a good mirror match counter. Mistymon killing your opponent's Tinkermons is something that I could definitely see coming into play.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
And also Mistymon has found his way into that cool blue-yellow hybrid deck where you use the Ice Wolf Claw to play him from source. I think that's really cool. But Mistymon is the bane of aggro deck's existence. He's brutal. And if your opponent's playing more than the standard 2, which we're starting to see from the yellow evolution decks, you can really get punished for throwing down your rookies early. Moving on to green, Togemon. Not the most popular rare, but I like it a lot. So Togemon is on evolution with an evolution cost of 2. Reveal the top 3 cards and add 1 ultimate to hand, and then you bottom the rest. The one thing about green's reveal effects is that sometimes it's pretty oof. In that, you run a lot of 3-ofs, sometimes 2-ofs in Digimon. So if you have to bottom deck copies of those cards, it feels bad.
I do believe green having abilities like this does allow for some form of filtering, even if it's not a controlled filter.
Yeah, it's definitely an effect that other colors don't have yet. That really pushes green to one of the top levels in some tournaments, where just your opponent is able to create the consistency that other decks can't, and then build these giant megas and swing. And Togemon is definitely part of that package. It's not always played in the tournament list, but I definitely play it in my list just for helping with my consistency. Moving on to that, Lilymon, probably one of the best rares in the entire set. Her source effect is when your Digimon attacks, you tap an opponent's Digimon without blocker, which means you get to enable all sorts of piercing shenanigans.
Even outside of piercing shenanigans, I do believe the value in that is being able to get rid of opponent's field.
Yeah, green's ability to control your opponent's field is pretty nasty as long as you're set up. There are times where you're not set up, you're just attacked with a Lilymon. She's only 6k DP, and she dies to your opponent's champion in security.
The interesting thing about green is I believe if you allow it to get off the ground, it becomes extremely difficult to beat. And Lilymon is a prime example of that, because if you have her as a source material, it really does just spoil the game because she is so strong. Yeah,
I think Lilymon's effect combined with Rosemon, and then one of the other 2 SRs, really it's up to your playstyle between Kabuterimon and Grand Koarumon. If you can get all this stuff online, which isn't always super difficult if your opponent doesn't draw the removal they really need to stop you, you can really control their field and really put on the burners on the aggression, and your opponent can't respond very well outside of like pulling stuff out of the raising area.
I think what's important in that matchup is being able to rush early game or stay low to the ground, so that way you still have the ability to rush but in a different manner, versus like things like Rookie Rush or in yellow where you're able to put on an on place and rack up health early game.
Yeah, definitely the best way to combat green, as we're seeing, is build fast and build big. So you need to be able to contest their board just like they're contesting yours, or contest their security so fast that they can't set up.
I definitely think another thing is not being afraid to not swing at security and instead swing at the Digimon, because there's a lot of value in that, and I feel like coming from different games, people might not always see that. But I do believe there's a lot of value in it, because if anything gets to Rosemon, it really does become a tough matchup.
Yeah, Rosemon is really just the source of all fuckery. If you cannot contest a Rosemon, you might just get pushed out of the game, and Lilymon really helps green achieve that. Moving on, the Tamers for each color. So green has 2, where the other 3 have 1. We're going to start with red. So Taichi's effect is, they all have the, on the start of your turn, if you're not at 3 memory, set it to 3 memory, which is great for unbreaking your abilities. That's except for Izzy, of course. That's really great for unbricking yourself. A lot of Digivolution costs are 3, or actually all Digivolution costs are 3 or less, except for Omnimon. So that lets you at least play 1 card before you hit negative. So all these Tamers are finding their ways into their respective decks between 2 and 4 ofs. And speaking of the 2 ofs, we're starting with Taichi. So Taichi's effect is if your red Digimon has 4 or more Digimon in their source, they gain security attack +1. Now, that means that your Megas are even more disgusting than they already were. But in red, really what you need this for is for the memory. The security attack +1 is all over red already, and Taichi's effect barely comes into play unless your opponent really lets you set up. And moving on from Taichi, we'll go to Matt. So Matt's effect is whenever a blue Digimon comes into play, you remove one of your opponent's bottom evolution sources. Matt is really great with comboing with Trial Deck Matt. Certain abilities that activate when your opponent doesn't have a Digimon with evolution sources, like Upamon. He's just a great enabler for a lot of different things, and giving blue 3 memory almost lets them play like 3 cards in 1 turn. He really helps you turn on the gas when your opponent's trying to deny you. And then from Matt, we have TK.
So TK is the kind of card where there is high value in playing him early game, but as the game progresses and you have less security, it really does lose value because it just ends up costing if he comes out of security, and that late in the game you don't necessarily want to play him unless you are actually bricking. So I do think that early game is the best time to play him. Of course, having that 3 memory allowing you to not be denied is an extremely important aspect, but also being able to reach in and look at the cards in that pool of your security and understanding what you could pull out and put into your hand to help further your game plan is an extremely invaluable resource.
Yeah, so I always feel like the blue, the red, and the yellow ones, more blue and yellow really help progress their game plan. Red is just kind of a little extra on top of the fact that you're not bricking anymore, since most of your costs are pretty expensive. But moving into green, green's 2 Tamers, fuck. Izzy is a 2-cost Tamer that if you control an ultimate, you can tap him once per turn to reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's a green Digimon, you add it to your hand. The king of filtering. Izzy sometimes draws me to death some games. He's super powerful.
Paired with Mimi is just showing his value because of the fact that Mimi can raise Digimon. So it really helps you continually raise without bricking in that area too.
Yeah, so being able to basically just keep drawing Digimon off the top of your deck turn by turn means that you get to Digivolve more consistently, and that means you just keep drawing cards. So green lets you Voltron really easily and really quick. And then moving to Mimi, Mimi is green's plus bring you to 3 memory Tamer, but her effect is if you control an ultimate, you can tap her once per turn to do one of your raising area effects. So either move out or raise a new Digitama. While both of these, the initial criticism is obviously like, oh, well, you need an ultimate on board. And if you don't have an ultimate on board, you're not playing green. Green is so focused on Digivolution, so focused on filtering and drawing cards to be able to get yourself to Ultimate and Mega, that neither of these Tamers should go without being able to be activated while they're on the field, unless you're just having the worst game on the planet.
I do agree with that. My initial thoughts on green, especially the Tamers, were that they were lackluster, but after playing against them, it is definitely not the case. I actually do believe green is, if not, the strongest deck in the entire set.
Yeah, it's either the strongest deck or just the one that's been figured out the best so far. But its effects are inherently powerful to make up for the fact that it was given a little bit of the short end of the stick. And that definitely shows that when you really are able to play the tempo game plus the card advantage game in the current set 1 meta, that green comes out ahead very easily because of the combination of piercing, tapping, and drawing cards.
I do agree with that.
Alright. Moving on to the option cards. These can be really hit or miss. So moving to red, Scrap Claw is their 3 cost option card that gives a Digimon piercing, but it also has no security effect. So a big thing with these is whether or not they have a security effect has really shown itself to be important in deck building. Scrap Claw giving a Digimon piercing is pretty strong in certain builds, but really it doesn't provide much of an effect that Red wants in a lot of the builds that are being played right now, so it's not seeing any play. And while piercing can be strong, it really requires you to build around it so that your Digimon are for sure bigger than your opponent's Digimon, so that piercing actually goes through. And then it's kind of hard to layer with additional security attacks because you could have just spent 3 mana, the security attack goes through with the piercing, which is strong, but then you can die on the first security attack and then lose all your value. And I think 3 mana is just a lot to pay in green for something that isn't, in red, for something that isn't inherently just increasing how much security attack you're doing. Red is so focused on just big attacks right now that I don't think it really has much of a place.
I agree with that. I definitely think piercing should be left to green in that case because it just does it so much better.
Yeah, I think Garudamon is obviously a very strong ultimate and gives red some additional options, and pairs really well with Greymon that has the security +1 source effect. But Scrap Claw giving another Digimon piercing is only necessary if you're playing a piercing focused deck with Baby Demon and stuff like that, because then it can turn your champions into Garudamon when Baby Demon gives them their +2 power. But outside of those builds, you're not going to really play Scrap Claw. The next one is Brave Shield, which is another pair of option cards that I'm not a huge fan of. Brave Shield is 5 cost, activate one of your Digimon and give it blocker. And in security, it basically does the same effect, but the main effect says until the end of your opponent's next turn, and during security it's just until the end of this turn, because obviously it procs during your opponent's turn. How do you feel about the blocker cards?
So the blocker cards are really awkward. I do believe they have certain value. In my thought process, it's mainly against green, because green taps so many things that if you do hit it in security, it enables you to activate the Digimon and then obviously have blockers, so you can kind of spoil their plans. But it also comes down to the fact that if that was not in security, I would not want to play it because it's such a high cost.
Yeah, when you're talking about planning to pay 3 or more mana, memory, you're looking at, you want to Digivolve into Megas or Omnimon, or just be completely killing something. Obviously, you could create a blocker that's so big that maybe your opponent doesn't want to attack into you. And it could be untapping something that's already attacked with Brave Shield. But really, I don't really want to end my turn with giving something blocker and passing, and then your opponent can just remove it and it be irrelevant.
That is another issue, because from what I've seen from results, yellow and green running so rampant in the metagame that Brave Shield doesn't exactly have an applicable spot.
Oh yeah, Brave Shield gets completely countered by Flow Cannon. I completely forgot about that. Flow Cannon can top any, we'll touch on it later, but Flow Cannon can tap any Digimon for only 2 cost, so it can completely negate Brave Shield. And with green's recent tops, I'm expecting to see a lot more green in our tournaments, so we'll see how that goes. Emerald Blaze is going into blue. Emerald Blaze is 1 cost, give a Digimon +3k DP, or in security, draw a card and then add Emerald Blaze to hand. I think Emerald Blaze is amazing in blue, but in aggro restand blue, because that's where the 3k matters.
I do agree with that. Having that 3k enabling your Digimon to not die to any possible security downfalls is super important.
Yeah, Vizramon loves Emerald Blaze. Being able to attack for 9k twice for basically free is super powerful, and you can either use it to clear your opponent's board and kill bigger Digimon like Slash Angemon or basically almost any ultimate, but it also relieves all the stress of maybe your Digimon dying in security, unless there's a hidden Mega in there, and normally hidden Megas are just the end-all be-all to all Digimon that aren't Omnimon.
I definitely think it helps with the consistency, because I feel like one of the areas blue lacks in is once it loses the Digimon that it's attacking with, it just kind of slows down and it falls off the radar.
Yeah, blue, you don't have time to slow down. If you falter in your aggro strategy, yellow, green, and red can all just easily take advantage of that pause and go for their game plan again and try and just slaughter you before you can get back off the ground. And I think Emerald Blaze keeps that from happening. But there are also games where you falter and then you just have a bunch of copies of Emerald Blaze in your hand over the turns that you've drawn them, and they're now useless and you can't really do anything with them. It's kind of a very proactive card. You need to make sure that you're not on the back foot when you start trying to use them unless you're desperate. Moving on to Giga Cross Freezer. Now this is a card that I haven't seen play really at all. 4 memory cost. Opponent's Digimon without evolution sources can attack during the next turn. And that is pretty strong. I think it could completely counter decks like Rookie Rush. Certain yellow plays can get pretty countered by this. But it's so awkward.
I think it hurts red, but that's more, I guess, obvious, just because you have things that attack for such high security.
Well, but
there's a lot of source effects attached to that.
I don't think red. Yeah, I don't think red really is a deck that runs without evolution sources a lot of the time.
This would be a tech mainly against, like, say what, like Metal Greymon, and at that point, why would you run a custom tech against that?
I would say it's mostly your tech against Rookie Rush. This card hoses Rookie Rush by itself, but it's only for 1 turn. It's 4 mana, and it can really just clog your hand and never be useful, because if you're playing against green or you're playing against yellow, your opponent is trying to have at least like 1 evolution source underneath most of their Digimon.
I do feel like where it shines, though, is its security skill.
Yeah, being able to stop your opponent from attacking from anything that is currently on their board that does not have an evolution source, since its security effect is basically just activating its main effect. There's obviously a lot of power in being able to just use a card's skill for free from security, but it's such a difficult way to play the game and to plan around how your plays, that I'm not a huge fan in cards that don't just outright remove your opponent's attacker, or give you some good card advantage from your security. I think there's a lot of situations where this could proc and it do nothing.
The other thing is, most decks that do not have an evolution source, depending on whether or not blue has actually taken advantage of removing them, they won't be attacking that turn anyways. So even if it's hit during security by another Digimon, the other ones will not be attacking.
Yeah, it just all depends. I think it's really meta-reliant, which could be good in the future, for sure. But I think in this current meta where green and yellow have come out dominant in recent tournaments, that this card is pretty useless. Moving on, Testament, yellow's version of the blocker adder. We've kind of already covered this one, but the big thing about Testament that makes it a little bit better is it's not so much of an oh shit button in security, but it's more of a consistency. So its security effect is draw 1 and add this card to hand, but it doesn't have the restand effect in red, so it doesn't really it doesn't work like Brave Shield.
Well, it doesn't allow for that ample aggression, so I don't feel like it's worth running just because there is more important option cards.
Yeah, yellow's option cards are almost all relegated to removal, so I don't think Testament's really worth playing right now. If for some reason there's a format that's so aggressive that you can't not play Testament, that would be interesting to see, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. Moving on, Symphony number 1, Polyphony, the cheaper 7 Heavens.
I think it is a good card depending on the metagame, but from testing, I actually do not like this card at all. I'd rather pay the 2 extra memory and completely eliminate Digimon. I think outside of Omnimon, one of the things that I cannot get rid of with it is Rosemon, and honestly, just having that valuable resource of being able to almost get rid of just anything is just too important to not have in the deck, in my opinion.
Yeah, the big thing about Polyphony, in my opinion, is no security effect, and that I just don't like cards that don't have security effects for options unless they are cheap so that they don't clog your hand, or are powerful enough to justify that. And I think that Polyphony is almost on that level. In certain metagames, I could definitely see it being the dominant removal card. But in the current game where green wants to go to Megas, yellow wants to go to Megas, red wants to go to Omnimon, and blue staying low to the ground so you can just fight them with your own Digimon, Polyphony is just an attempt to try and save memory and be more efficient, or Seven Heavens having a security effect means it's more value overall.
I definitely agree with that. When I was testing with Polyphony, it definitely felt like there was a lot of bricking and clogging, or it felt like my security was much less valuable in comparison to having Seven Heavens inside of it.
Yeah, I think the no security is what really tips the edge into Seven Heavens territory. All right, moving on to green, Flow Cannon. Now, Flow Cannon is probably my favorite option card. Tap an opponent's Digimon, 2 costs.
It's insane.
It's insane. You basically are just setting something up to go, hey, I know you didn't want me to kill that, but I'm going to kill that. And then Flow Cannon's security effect is bonkers. Tap all opponents' Digimon without blocker. So I was playing a game against her earlier. I didn't win the game, but Flow Cannon felt really good, where I literally tapped 4 Digimon with Flow Cannon.
There is extreme value in the card. It's also so low cost. There's really no reason to not run it.
Yeah, Flow Cannon can combo with multiple of your Digimon on the deck, can combo with probably the most powerful option card in the game, which is Dimension Scissors. It's so inherently powerful. I don't think you could play a green deck without Flow Cannon at this point. And then the next card in green, which is reminiscent of Mega Destroyer but very green, is Mega Electroshocker. For 3 mana, you can tap an opponent's Digimon, or tap 2 opponent's Digimon with 5,000 or less DP, and then when it procs in security, you can activate the main effect.
That is actually what I was... Now that reading the effect, that is what I was mentioning earlier in the podcast. But I do realize that it being 5,000 or less can make a difference, and how do you feel on that?
Yeah, so with how current deck builds are looking, I think a lot of champions that are 6k or higher are being heavily valued. So I think this card is another card that goes like, hey, are you playing Rookie Rush? Or actually, I think it's pretty good to yellow too. Are you playing Rookie Rush or yellow? No, then this card probably doesn't have much of a place against you, except being a 1 more mana expensive Flow Cannon with a worse security effect.
Sadly, yes.
It's kind of the sad reality of it. If you're not playing against a deck that has a significant amount of 5,000 or less DP Digimon, you're probably only going to see 1 on the board at the time. Which means that this card is just not as good as Flow Cannon. I would rather use the remaining slots in my deck for option cards for Dimension Scissor, which that card is so fucking ridiculous that sadly most option cards get pushed out of green because of it. Alright, so that's all the rares in the set. How do you feel about the rare slot? Do you think it's a little bit wonky, or...?
It definitely feels uneven in some aspects, but it does make sense in others. Like, I do believe green had some of the best rare spots.
Which I think they really needed, obviously considering they didn't have a trial deck, whereas, like, trial deck cards from all 3 of the other colors are finding their way into standard builds. Green didn't have that, so their rares kind of had to be more inherently powerful. But I'm not a huge fan of option cards that are really situational in the rare slot, and that's just my opinion. But I do think that how decks are really playing out means that option cards are going to be combating for very limited space.
A side note about a rare, Brave Shield got an alternate art, right?
Yeah, but
we actually pulled it, I think.
I think what they did with alternate arts is they really went with like fan favorites that they could use good artwork on, because
we really like shields, right, guys?
I think we all really like Metal Greymon, and that was what they went with. Yeah, I think the alternate art option cards maybe could have been alt art versions of the trial deck cards. Flow Cannon was a perfect choice already, but I think they could have done them a little differently with the alt art rares, but they went with what they thought the fan favorites would be, in my opinion. And I think they made okay choices. Obviously, you're not really playing Brave Shield, but it's pretty. I like it. It's pretty. All right, we're going to move into uncommons. With commons and uncommons, we're going to kind of fire off on more like archetypes of cards, because if you look in the set, a lot of uncommons and commons are very similar to counterparts across each color. So starting with the babies, in red we have Babydamon, blue we have Wanyamon, yellow we have Kyaromon, and green we have Freemon. I made a little note here. I think the green and red ones are good, and the other two are kind of crap.
I honestly do not play... I would play Trial Deck Tokamon before I play any of the other yellow ones, because they're just not good.
Yeah, Kyaromon is like, you get power gains if you're at 6 security. Are you serious? That's completely worthless.
I mean, like, unless you get lucky enough, or you clog your Digitama pile with it, you aren't going to hit that. And there would be other situations in which you would have to be able to get to that spot first. Like being able to rush, use Holy Angemon, and then go into Seraphimon just so you can secure that spot.
You might be able to use it. You might have the plus 2k for like 2 or 3 turns.
Is it really that worth it?
No.
It's way more worth it to use just the Holy Angemon to get that
to get that little source effect power. And I think in comparison with its rare counterpart with Cupimon, the draw power is super important.
It enables you to not brick early game, and I definitely think even if it's only one draw, and let's say you only get off once per game, I do see the value in that, because drawing early game is just allowing you to pave the way towards the last part of the game, which is super integral.
Yeah, and then Wanyamon is if your opponent has 2 or more Digimon without evolution sources, you get plus 2k. Pretty irrelevant in blue. You want the draw power of Upamon. In red, Babydamon is if this Digimon has security, it gets plus 2k. Or no, security. Has piercing, this Digimon gets plus 2k. That's super important for piercing, getting more power gains. So if you're playing a piercing deck, Babydamon is a straight 4 if it's what you want to do. And then Freemon in green is actually a card that I'm starting to shift towards playing more of. Freemon reads, if your opponent has 2 or more tapped Digimon, your Digimon gets plus 2,000 power on attack. And that's a situation that comes up all the time.
I do believe because it's not as niche as the other ones, it does allow you to have more aggression on, say, like anything like Grand Kuwagamon or anything like that.
Yeah, I think Freemon is definitely one of the babies that you can play in tandem with the rare, and not really feel too bad when like one or the other doesn't proc, because you're kind of building it so that either situation is going to happen and you're going to be able to get power gains one way or the other. The thing in green is normally with your source effects, you have to be careful on which cards put on top of what, so that you make sure that you get the power gains you need for the unit that you're going into. Now, going on from that, there's an alternative Mega in each red, blue, and yellow, and then greens is a vanilla in Titamon. So in red, their Mega has piercing. In blue, it removes evolution sources. Yellow is /Angemon, which is mandatory.
You run it. That removal is just too good. It allows you to stop the build up to, say, like Rosemon and things like that.
Yeah, /Angemon giving something minus 8k on evolution is amazing. It's probably one of the best uncommons in the game. And then green got Titamon, which got a little love in the London Players Guild tournament this weekend. But Titamon is not Rosemon, or Hercules Kabuterimon, or Grand Kuwagamon. So, sorry Titamon, you're just kind of cheap in 12k. And then, the next set of cards in Uncommon are the +3 memory, -3 memory ultimates. Metal Greymon, Weregarurumon, Kirinmon, and Digitamamon. Although Digitamamon is a common, I'm not entirely sure why.
These cards are definitely good in their own right, but then if you look at certain things like Digitamamon in green, it is just such a good combination. It outweighs the others by far.
Yeah, I think of these, Weregarurumon and Digitamamon are better than their peers, just because of how the decks kind of work. I think green and blue both really love having additional memory, whereas red and yellow like additional memory. I don't think they really have space for that generation outside of in red there's an option card you might play.
I don't believe you could even afford to run Kirinmon. Of course you could tech it into your deck, and I did attempt doing that, but I believe there is much higher value cards that you could put in that spot.
Yeah, yellow, there's no way in hell you're playing this thing. Its ultimate slots are so strong that you can't afford Kirinmon. Well, Digitamamon, being the lonely common, can combo with Dimension Scissors and completely fuck on your opponent. So basically the combo with Digitamamon is, if you have Digitamamon on the board, you play Dimension Scissors. So Digitamamon's effect activates whenever it attacks, so you get +3 memory. With Dimension Scissors, you destroy an opponent's Digimon, Digitamamon untaps, and you get to attack again for another +3 memory. And if you're destroying another opponent's Digimon, it gets to untap again, and give you another +3 memory. So obviously you can't go past 10 with this, so you want to be playing cards in between those attacks, but you could even just ramp up your memory so that you can then Digivolve Digitamamon into Hercules Kabuterimon and be able to pay those 3 intervals of memory so you can restand Hercules Kabuterimon for each +3 memory you just got.
It's a strong combination that the others just don't have.
Yeah, Dimension Scissors has a lot of combo plays like that, but also, as I saw in testing, it's very niche. There's only a couple situations where really that's going to really bring out the full value, but there are times where just getting like +9 memory and then being able to kind of just make some little plays off of it is pretty strong.
I think it's more cute than anything else.
Yeah, it's pretty cute. I've definitely seen VODs where it just destroys the opponent, but obviously that's when something cute goes perfect. Moving on from there, there is a set of on-place champions in each color. Bergermon, Garurumon, Petermon, and Kuwagumon, obviously the best of which being Petermon.
Petermon, so much value. It is literally the big portion of Yellow's aggro engine outside of things like BT01 Seravimon.
Yeah, so Petermon is on place. You get to play a Tinkermon from your discard pile or your hand for free. Which
just ridiculous. It allows you to barrage your opponent the next turn.
Yeah.
Unless they actually play out to get removal.
Sometimes it hands blue their effects on a silver platter, but normally generating 2 Digimon for 5 mana is so strong that you're okay with that. Whereas I think of the other ones, Kuwagumon is tap an opponent's Digimon, Garurumon is untap one of your Digimon, and Bergermon is give a Digimon +1 security attack. I think all 3 of these cards are outclassed by a lot of their champion contemporaries in their decks. I think Garurumon has a place in a Metal Garurumon focused blue build just because it lets you Digivolve into Metal Garurumon, pull out Garurumon, and then untap something. But that's a little just cute in my opinion. I've tried the on-place blue deck. It's cool, but promo Garurumon is so strong that that's what you're really looking to Digivolve from a lot of the time. And then I just kind of touched on like what the mechanics that you see in a lot of the other uncommons are. They're not really too memorable. In red, they're power gain source effects. Yellow has Darkmon, which is, what was that? When she's rested, if you play a yellow Digimon, you draw a card.
Yeah. You have... It's supposed to be like Joan of Arc, essentially. But she's just... You don't play that.
Yeah.
Especially, then, she's just asking to get reaped by green.
Yeah. Labramon is probably one of the better uncommons that you play in yellow, though.
It is. It allows you to pair for certain things. Even though the situation can be niche, it is still a valuable card if you time it correctly.
Yeah. In blue, Leomon dying, giving you +2 memory, is pretty good in aggro blue because you're just trying to thwack security with Leomon and hope he dies so you get to play more cards. I get to kill Leomon some more.
Poor guy. Literally never, ever gets to live.
Monmon is a really special rookie because he is a 1K blocker. Now that, I think, is really interesting because...
Monmon?
His name is Monmon. I think giving blue a rookie blocker was really interesting considering they're so aggressive. But I think Monmon kind of gets left behind these days. 1K power just means he dies. He just dies.
He's just a body on board, essentially, to allow for that extra defense, but I'm not entirely sure blue really needs that. I believe blue needs to stay aggressive if it actually wants to find a place in the metagame.
Yeah, I think Monmon could see some play, but he costs 4 memory to play just down and costs 1 memory to Digivolve into, so you can make a lot of plays pretty awkward. And then green has its top 3 searches, and Palamon and Jagamon. Green's top 3 is always like, look at the top 3 cards. For whichever Digimon you're using, you add a Digimon of the next level to your hand and put the rest on the bottom. We already commented that on a little bit before. And then there's Mega Kabuterimon, who's kind of poop. Swords effect, +1 memory on attack if your opponent has 2 rested Digimon, which I'm not a fan of because...
I think there's better spots to have text.
Well, yeah, just Digitamamon, Lilymon, even Okuwagamon, a common, they're all super good.
I think having Digitamamon completely outweighs that, even if you're not always going to get the combo, but the potential of getting the combo is still there.
Yeah. And then there's Woodmon, who's a blocker, who's,
You have to do it.
You have to play him.
Yeah.
He's probably the most played blocker in the entire... Or the most played uncommon in the entire set because he's a blocker, and you have to. Alright. Moving on to commons. I put a little note here that's just all the jammers not in red. That's it. All the jammers not in red. I don't know why Tyrannomon got the rare slot. Just maybe filler. Who cares? Vanillas. So, the vanillas that really have come out and seen a lot of play are the ones that cost 2 to play, or the champions that cost 1 to digivolve. They're all super strong because they let you make very...
They let you cheap plays that could help you progress your game.
Yeah, they're very efficient. That's the word I was looking for. They're very efficient plays, so it lets you progress a evolution-based game plan without really stuttering. And then blue and red both have a 1-cost digivolving champion that's 6k power, so they kind of just get to sit there with their fat butts. And sometimes
Dark Tyrannomon?
Dark Tyrannomon.
Dark Tyrannomon is just complete value. In red, you have to, in my opinion, do Turbo Evolution if you want to be relevant.
Yeah, I think you got to get to that Mega if you're going to go for it. And then Gorillamon is just an ass slapper. He's big. He likes to go in and attack security in aggro blue. And he's value because you only digivolve for 1 cost. And then yellow got Repamon.
And that doesn't see any play at all.
Yeah, 3 to play champion is pretty good. But it's 2 to digivolve for 3,000 DP.
I mean, I can see what they were trying to do. Is he 3,000? I thought he was 4,000.
I think he's 3,000. I will check.
Well, either way, regardless, I think the big issue with that is they did try to go with the value of making it cheaper to play, but I don't think that made it worth playing at all.
No. So I'm fire off the other colors really quick. In red, vanillas are what you're looking at here for commons. And then Professor Agumon. Is he a meme? Is he not a meme? We shall see. As we get more Agumons, Professor Agumon could get easily more powerful than he is right now. He is just on place. Return an Agumon from your discard pile to your hand, which, depending on which Agumons come out in the future, he could get more and more powerful.
I mean, if we do get, let's say, Black War Greymon, and they did say we're getting him, but if they give something like Black Agumon, I could see a pairing of the 2 colors and using Professor Agumon to pull things like that out.
Yeah, it just all depends what they do with cards named Agumon in the future. And if they kind of... I don't know if it's specific that it has to be a card that's only named Agumon, or if you can grab Professor Agumon or cards with other like name elements to them.
See, I'm never a fan of cards that have specific conditions like that, because it has the ability to clunk unless they properly support the archetype.
Yeah, that's true. Blue, commons you play, vanillas. Yellow, you don't really play any commons at all, since Tinkermon is an uncommon and Petermon's an uncommon, and then there's trial deck stuff that's powerful. And that kind of takes up all the slots that commons might be played in, except for option cards, obviously. We'll move on to the option cards next. Green has 2 big commons that I like to play, depending on the deck build I'm going for. Kokuamon is a rookie that when you are on Mega, his source effect gives them security attack +1. It's the only source of security attack +1 in green, and it makes a lot of their cards way more threatening.
I definitely think that is a very worthwhile card, and it's one of those things that you really have to watch out for when it does get on the board.
Yeah, most decks don't play very many copies of it just because it does cost 1 to digivolve and 4 to play on the board. So Green's game plan doesn't exactly like you playing those kinds of cards just because you just want to go boom, 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 boom. But Kokuamon giving like a Rosemon or a Grand Quaguan +1 security attack is gross. Those cards are not meant to have +1 security attack for sure.
No, it is pretty disgusting.
And then Okuamon, an ultimate that when you destroy an opponent's Digimon by battle, you get +1 memory. Again, I'm not a huge fan of +1 memory effects, but I think it's so good with Green's game plan. Just you get to activate that effect all the time, so you can really rack up memory and sometimes make some extra cute plays by the 1 or 2 memory you gain off of it. Moving to option cards, I kind of listed out the option cards that I think are relevant. Gravity Crush is a red option card that is a +2 memory during your turn. When you end your turn, -2 memory for 0 cost. So
it's kind of funny that it's 0 cost because that does make it playable in my opinion.
Yeah, I've seen some deck lists playing it somewhere in the 2 to 3 of range. It kind of is just to allow you to like turbo out a play here and there so that you can try and get ahead of your opponent. And -2 memory isn't always the biggest deal. You know, if you can set your opponent to 1 and then it minuses them to 3, that's just what the normal Tamer does. So it just kind of depends what you're trying to do without ending your turn normally, to try and like get 2 card plays in there. Nuclear Laser, which is something that I haven't seen much play with, but I think has a lot of potential. Nuclear Laser is 3 mana, 3 memory, draw 2 cards, and give a Digimon +3000 power. Now, on that one, it's the draw 2 cards in red that I think is really strong.
I do agree with that. Being able to follow up with any evolutions and things like that is important, or being able to just get more hand is something I don't believe red has many options for.
Yeah, I think the card is basically like a 3 memory draw 2, just because red doesn't have anything like that. The +3K can be relevant, but in red a lot of the times you're either looking to be a big power or you're just maybe trying not to die when you attack multiple security with your like champion. Moving on from there, I kind of made a little note here. Blues commons, I'm sorry guys, but they're pretty mediocre. Some of you guys might like them in specific like pet decks and testing or something like that, but I haven't found a reason to play them yet. Moving on to yellow, Blade of the True, I forget what its Japanese name is draw 1 card for every 2 security. So this could be really powerful.
This definitely could. It's helpful for unbreaking, but once more, it has the issue of being completely overshadowed by removal.
Yeah, I think Blade of the True could see play in a very heavier heal deck in the future as the main draw engine. But in this current metagame, I think it kind of sees more play in like hybrid decks because it's kind of cute, to try and like smooth out the issues with that Digivolution problem that hybrid decks kind of tend to have. But other than that, I don't really see you playing it in the main yellow deck right now because it's so focused on removal. And speaking of removal, Golden Ripper, -2K from an opponent's Digimon whenever your Digimon attacks for 3 memory.
I do see the value in that. Sometimes there is the issue if you don't have a lot on board, it isn't always able to be played because it just won't be applicable. But when you do actually have things on board and you play your aggro engine correctly and you bring out, say, Petermon and Tinkermon and things like that, the next turn when you play that, it really does just give a full form board wipe.
Yeah, I think this card really sees a lot of power when you're either trying to kill something that's a little too big for your Seraphimon to take down by itself. That -2 normally brings it into that under 10k range to let you knock it out, or sometimes it needs to be under 11 or 12k. Or if you're playing against Rookie Rush, this card probably fucks.
Yeah, it definitely does. I was able to use it.
Yeah, I think Golden Ripper finds its way into the niche against Rookie Rush cards, but probably at the top of that list because it does have other functionalities against Megas and other big Digimon that sometimes Yellow just has that little bit of problem killing because it just can't break that 10k threshold with just 1 card. Moving on from there, Hornbuster, Green's 1 cost plus 3k. But in security, it's draw 1 and then add Hornbuster to hand. I think Hornbuster is good. I don't know how much green really needs the plus 3k. I've tested Hornbuster, and it's been good at times, but at other times it's just kind of like a worst emerald. It's an Emerald Blaze in a deck that doesn't really need Emerald Blaze all the time. And the security lets you kind of like even out how painful your security can be, because green's champions and rookies are particularly weak. But I would much rather have my security effects be a little bit more impactful. And moving on to Dimension Scissors. Dimension Scissors is why Hornbuster is completely...
Here we go.
Yeah, Dimension Scissors is why Hornbuster is completely pushed out of green.
He's basically in bed with this card. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, Dimension Scissors... man, this card is like the best option card in the game. Actually, I would say outside of the 3 big removal option cards, Dimension Scissors is nutty.
It's a combo piece. It really does have a lot of options attached to it.
Yeah, so 3 memory. Choose one of your Digimon. Whenever that Digimon destroys one of your opponent's Digimon by battle, this does not include security Digimon. It has to be the Digimon on the board. You get to restand that Digimon.
That is so frustrating when it comes to green, because everything is already rested.
Yeah, green having all its resting abilities means that sometimes Dimension Scissors is a Grand Kuwagamon attacking your opponent for like 4 or 5 security in one turn. Easily can end the game if you get to play it right. I will say there are times where paying the 3 mana for Dimension Scissors, and then you sometimes have to pair that with Flow Cannon to actually get the combo started. That doesn't always work just because you don't have 5 mana. But a lot of the times, if you can just slap Dimension Scissors on a big boy, that even if he doesn't have piercing, you can just clear your opponent's board real fast and then move on from there, and that might be game over. Like, that's how oppressive Dimension Scissors can be. It can end the game on its own in the 3 memory option card. And I'm gonna stop sucking Green's dick for a moment here. We want to move on to speculation time.
So this was highly requested. So we really had to try to pull some stuff together and check things out, because still so little has actually been shown other than Devimon's full art, which I did Photoshop and put him petting dogs.
Yeah, I'm pretty hyped for Ultimate Power, and Devimon's petting dog ability should be pretty king meme.
He's definitely going to, I believe, just due to popularity, he's going to get a secret.
Yeah, I think Devimon. Well, because they said in the sales sheet that all the SRs will be mega, I think that means Devimon is definitely getting a secret rare. Though I could see him getting a rare and just kind of getting shafted. I mean, that would suck. I really don't want that to happen, but I would love Devimon to be a secret rare. But their secret rare choices have been a little interesting, so I'm curious to see where they go with it next. If it's a little more tied in with the anime, I think Devimon is definitely the card to give it to.
I agree. I do believe that sales would be pretty high if they did that, just because he is so popular.
Yeah. And moving on from that, Devimon's color. Now, this is kind of a broader conversation that we've had before and the community's kind of having is, are Dark Digimon going to find their way into yellow?
I say yes. I really do think it's going to happen, because I believe the leading hint of that is Tsukaimon, because of him leading to Devimon. I don't see why they would ever put Tsukaimon in and then basically just shaft the idea.
Yeah, I think Devimon could also be a purple card. That's kind of like my one or the other kind of guess. He's either going to be yellow or he's going to be purple. But I am pushing for yellow. I want Devimon to be yellow. I don't think Bandai is going to really try and do the whole family limitation thing that some people think is going to happen with the colors over time. And I think that the devil, evil Digimon finding their way in the yellow would be really interesting. And play up for some better mechanics with removal for sure.
There's a lot of other things to really pay attention to also. We don't have it in the game yet, but if you just look at Digimon, Mastamon, quite literally, it's just Lady Devimon and Angelomon. And if that doesn't really spell out that you could possibly run a dual color deck between the two, or if they just do fall under that color, then I don't know what does.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how this goes. While the only thing is, I think there is a better candidate for yellow in the secret rare, not in secret rares, sorry, in the super rares then what would be Venom Myotismon? They've already revealed in the sales sheet.
I don't want him to be yellow.
Yeah,
though. That's the thing.
That's the thing is, I don't think Venom Myotismon. I don't think Venom Myotismon is the clear choice for yellow. But if they make Devimon yellow, Venom Myotismon is yellow.
See, my reasoning of not wanting him to be yellow is just I think he's ugly.
Yeah, I know that's your reasoning.
So if he's really good, I'm gonna have to play him. I don't want to have to cut one of my pretty like angel boys or angel girls to have to run this gnarly looking thing.
Yeah, he is pretty fucked up.
He's pretty ugly.
Yeah. Now speaking of dark Digimon, what is up with Metal Greymon?
Okay, War Greymon quite literally has to be...
Oh, did I say metal? I mean War Greymon.
He has to be black. It was in the sales sheet. The only difference is he's on the pack art as not black. But that's also really confusing because I don't want another red card that's just another red War Greymon to show up. We don't need that.
Yeah, I think that would be super boring. And I'm really hoping that sales sheet doesn't mean that they just were like, oh yeah, War Greymon's also going to be black. That means that we're going to have
the same unit, but
the
black.
same unit, but in the color black and not as his black form.
Black War Greymon is quite literally so cool. It's one of my favorite Digimon.
Yeah, I think if they did the like black blue series of Agumon to War Greymon, that would be amazing for black. That would be perfect, and really could set the stage for like what black wants to be defined as. Are they like maybe like artificial Digimon? Are they just Digimon that you kind of really could pair with the idea of defenders and blockers? What is that really going to look like? Is it going to be the opposite to red? And that's kind of what they're going for, which would make sense with bringing in Black War Greymon. But that pack art is not Black War Greymon.
That bothers me, honestly, a lot. Just because it could either be an awful, I don't know how to put it, like art misprint, but at the same time, they still have time to fix it. So if that really was the case and they fucked up that bad, why would that still be on there?
Yeah, I just think if it's not in the set, it's some serious bait. And you can all see if you look at the prices on Yuyute that there's War Greymon tax like there's Charizard tax in Pokemon. The card is not worth its price, but it is super expensive for just the base super rare. But I don't think I think War Greymon's probably one of the worst super rares in the set. I'm really hoping it's Black War Greymon in his black form, not just War Greymon in black. And then moving on to the rest, I kind of want to do these just like what do we think these could be, and then kind of an explanation why. So going through the rest of the list, Gallantmon.
Fuck you, he's black.
Alright, I really want Gallantmon to be black. I don't really care about the whole like, oh yeah, Guilmon's a fire dragon thing.
Okay, but it doesn't absolutely matter because the logic behind that doesn't always hold up because he's also a virus Digimon.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what they do with the Guilmon line. I think Gallantmon should be black.
He has a fucking shield.
I know. I think he would be like...
All of his things that are important to being Gallantmon are either defense penetrating or being able to have stronger defense. He quite literally has a giant... is it a lance and a shield?
A lance and
Lances aren't traditionally meant to be just straightforward combat weapons to have. You use those with the shield, and it's usually for long distance range in a way because it can reach that far, and it's protective.
Yeah, I just don't want Gallantmon to be red. I think that would be super boring.
If he's red, we've already decided that he'll play it because I don't play red, but if it's black, dear God, let me play that shit.
Yeah, so unless black really gets that like it's dark Digimon label, which I really think would be very boring, I think Gallantmon would be black, and if he's not black, he's red.
That's just lame.
That's just lame. Moving on, the next one is Shine Greymon, which I think is yellow or red, depending on Venom Myotismon.
See, I do agree with that. Depending on where they put Venom, it really does change where Shine War Greymon goes, or Shine Greymon. Just because he's a light dragon, people think traditionally just because he has Greymon in his name, that automatically, Potato Brain brings him to red. But that isn't always the case. We have to be able to expand our thinking past that.
Yeah, I think the Sea Dragon Red mentality is getting a little out of hand, but I think if Devimon ends up in yellow, that means Shine Greymon will be in red.
I do definitely agree with that. And it's bad. I want Devimon, but I really don't want Big Chungusmon to show up because he's hideous.
He big, ugly Chungusmon, that's for sure. But the thing is, if Venom Myotismon isn't purple, I think he has to be yellow. I don't think he finds his way into black.
No.
I think the concept of black containing some evil Digimon doesn't really make sense with the idea of making them blockers and defenders. And I think it's more like the color representing the mechanic than the color representing the type of Digimon. Even though so far that's kind of been the case, that yellow really ties into into specific families. But I think the game has more focused on the Digidestined than they have other Digimon so far. And that's where we're going to start seeing the change in how we predict things placing into certain colors. And I just wanted to explain really quick before we move on. My thought process when it comes to is this card going to be this color or this color? When I talk about Venom Myotismon being yellow, if he's not yellow, then Shine Greymon will be the yellow card. Is because they're going to support every color in this set based on the sales sheet. So I do not see the 4 base colors not having more than one SR. I think if they support any of these colors more than the others,
it's going to completely outweigh it and leave them in the dust.
Yeah, I could see it either completely outweighing it or just be a complete waste of the SR slot. What's the point of putting in a bunch of red SR Megas when you really can only play 1 or 2 at a time?
My favorite thought process is the fact that people say Gallantmon, Shine Greymon, and who knows what else is red, but that would just completely ruin the support.
Yeah, I think this set is going to be super heavy on the black and purple like we saw with green in the first set. And maybe even more so, on the commons, uncommons, rare slots, they could even take up more of the set than green did previously. And just leave the old colors with a little sprinkling of support and an SR each. I do not think you could see more than 1 SR per color. I think secret rares are a little up in the air as to what colors they're going to be, but I think it's not going to be red and blue.
Force Vidramon, he has abs, and that's really weird. That's the only thing I think of. It's like his head is a V, and he has abs.
The ab dragon.
It's weird.
Yeah, so I think Force Vidramon. My primary pick is blue, just because they've been harping on the manga thing for a while, and they just released that manga chapter where it was a crossover between the new anime and the old manga. So I could see Force Vidramon being blue. I also think that if for some reason the red slot is open, he could find his way into red. That's just the dragon red mentality, really. I think that's the only basis for why Force Vidramon would be red, is dragon's red.
See, I love how, as we look at our chart, for things that we believe or anticipate for colors, there's at least 3 different red things on here, and I believe there's so many people who just think they get rid of the black, the yellow, and the blue, and all the different colors. They just see red. There is no way they would give them 3 cards.
Yeah, it has to be one of these 3 is the red card, and I think Shine Greymon is the best choice, unless it's a War Greymon for no apparent reason. I think Shine Greymon is the default best shot at being red if my prediction about Venom Myotismon is true, which I think is one of my weird theories that sounds the most plausible. Outside of my thoughts on purple. My thoughts on purple are, I think purple's going to be a split between evil Digimon that produce demon armies from the trash, or trash machine Digimon. I think it's going to be a combination of those two and not just one or the other, as some people have been talking about, because I don't think Piedmon fits into black at all, but I also don't think that Machine Dramon really fits into black. I think Machine Dramon's lore places him more in purple and in line with those abilities.
I definitely agree with that, just because if you watch any of the shows or you've read the wiki, doing some research on him really does kind of change perspective on where he could be. So I kind of see him in purple for that reason.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see purple be the land of the machine, the trash, and the evil.
That means you'll get Numamon eventually if it's
Yeah,
trash.
yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Numamon pretty fast. Numamon and Sukamon being in the first.
Dude, I
purple.
can't deal with those.
I think those cards could be mandatory in purple.
Dude, if there's Platinum Numamon, I'll own... And what if it gets alt art? I'll own the playset purely as a complete joke.
I would love a playset of alt art Platinum Numamon. That shit would be hilarious.
Imagine rolling into a tournament and you come in with alt art Platinum Numamon, and it's like, who knows how expensive that shit would be.
Yeah, so my assumption for Piedmon is straight purple. He could be black because in those weird reveals, his background color was black. I think that was just playing on the fact that he's evil. I could not see him. I can't envision how they put Piedmon into a defender mechanic unless they completely separate the idea of the mechanics from the cards themselves, which I don't think has really been the case. I feel like healing being in yellow and piercing being in green and security attack being in red and restanding being in blue kind of makes sense with each of those like color ideas with how the Digimon play.
There's also Puppetmon, who is going to be green.
Yeah, I think Puppetmon has to be green.
It's literally Woodmon, Cherrymon, and then Puppetmon. He's fucking a tree.
Yeah, Puppetmon is just the derivation of Mushmon and Woodmon, which we already have in green. So that's
we
just
have both of those.
That's just the evidence right there. I think Mushmon and Woodmon already existing in the game means that Puppetmon is definitely going to be green. I just think it's like the evolution of a blocker that's coming earlier than the rest, but they're all going to see that their evolution lines will be finished and within the colors that they already exist in. So the next one that I think is a little bit up in the air, in my opinion, is Metal Seadramon. I think Metal Seadramon could find his way into either purple or blue, but him finding his way into blue is kind of contingent on All Force Seadramon.
Is it bad that I think this is the one I give like the least fuck about?
Yeah, Metal Seadramon doesn't get much love outside of the Seadramon stands, but I think Metal Seadramon will probably end up being purple, just because I think purple's gonna be Metal Seadramon, Machine Dramon, and Piedmon. That's kind of my estimation of it. I could see Metal Seadramon being in blue. I could also see them printing the Seadramon line in blue and then just being like, well, but Metal Seadramon's in purple. Sorry, guys. Just because being a machine, while it would fit in blue with how they've kind of structured the game so far, I don't think it's going to be in blue just because of All Force Seadramon, unless for some reason All Force Seadramon is some weird, like, secret rare.
There's also Machine Dramon. I mean, that we've already pretty much expressed our opinions on that. I don't think.
I think Machine Dramon has to be purple, just because it's the explanation of the mechanics versus his history in the Digimon franchise, as being this like weirdly artificial like machination of a bunch of different parts.
Didn't he also build?
Yeah, he builds his own. He has his machine army, which is built from scraps. I think that Machine Dramon could also be black, but I just think that the third black spot, which assuming they have 3 SRs to kind of balance out the 10 SR line, I think the black Digimon is the last one to really be talked about because we have 9 megas in this list. I think the last black Digimon is just the one that hasn't been revealed yet. But if they put Machine Dramon in black, then machines are black, and that's going to throw off all this list.
I want Sistermon in the game already.
I know you do.
That won't happen.
That's a very like Digimon video game like reference.
It won't happen.
And I don't think we're there yet. I think we're very still focused on the anime and
I think we're never gonna get it, but I can dream. Like I still want Omnimon Zwart. Which honestly, actually, hear me out, as ridiculous as it sounds, his stats at all the games are defensive, so if there ever was to be any ridiculous reason that he showed up, he would probably be
in black, yeah. Or like in like maybe like black, red, blue or some weird shit like that. Like just something that would be really strange because I think that if you make a level 7, it probably needs to cover multiple colors, just to not be like super exclusive or just I think he definitely needs to be a colorless card. I think all level 7s need to be colorless cards. I just don't know what colors would combine into Omnimon Zwart besides just black. It would really depend where they put.
I think it would all be black because if I remember correctly, Black War Greymon.
What if they put Black Metal Garurumon into purple?
Well,
being a machine type.
That would be lame, but I would understand it.
And then Omnimon's Vort would be black and purple, and that would kind of like...
I mean, that'd be cool. I would still play him.
It'd be interesting. I don't know. It's gonna be...
He's probably not gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't see Omnimon's Vort happening anytime soon, unless they touch on one in the anime for some reason, which...
I highly doubt.
They touched on Omnimon on episode 3. You have no clue what they're gonna do with Royal Knights these days.
Nah, I mean, I feel like they're definitely flushing Royal Knights, like, super early in anything they do just so they can get the money out of them because they're definitely the cash cows.
Yeah, I think especially for the video game crowd, the Royal Knights are really seeing a lot of upfront in your face.
There's like boners for them, basically.
Yeah. And I think with that, that's all we have for today. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Thanks for listening.